America's Voice Live with Amanda Head and Kyle Olson starts now.
Welcome back to America's Voice Live. I'm Amanda Head with Kyle Olson. In this segment, we have True Tamplin on with us. He is an entrepreneur. He is also the author of the #1 bestseller, Raising an Executive. True, welcome to the show.
Hey, Amanda and Kyle, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here today.
Our pleasure. So I absolutely love your story. So for those watching who are not familiar with your background, your dad was offered a job in the band Journey, which everyone knows, and he declined. He raised you. You became this outstanding young man, amazingly successful. And I feel like nowadays, this kind of wouldn't have been a popular decision for your father, because we live in this era where, you do you, hashtag, that cool life, whatever, do what makes you feel good and not what is necessarily right. But your dad, it seems, did the absolute right thing, stayed at home with you and raised you to be, this amazing person and man. And, I think this book is very, very needed. I haven't read it yet, but it's an amazing story.
Thanks so much. Yeah, let me just go into that really quick. So, like she said, I was 13 years old, and my sister was 15 at the time, and my father got the call to become, like she said, the lead singer for Journey. And you can imagine, as an artist, this is the end-all, be-all offer. I mean, it just doesn't get much bigger than that. And he's actually a Christian, so he prayed a lot, because there was one catch or one caveat, which was it was a 5-year touring contract. So he was going to be away from his kiddos for 5 years at a minimum, only seeing us like maybe a month or two each year. So he's going to miss a huge part of our childhood. And so he prayed about it and weighed the costs and just really felt like the Lord was telling him, don't do it. I got better plans for you. And I think it was that really just caused him to choose to turn down that offer. And he actually started a really successful vocal academy as a result of that decision. But that just absolutely propelled me. No doubt, I have had some awesome early successes, largely attributed to, what's in my DNA, if you will, or working hard too. But there's no way that I could have written this book and becoming a #1 Amazon best-selling author, or full ride soccer scholarship, or 4.0 GPA throughout school. None of this could have happened had my dad taken the Journey gig, because I wouldn't have had a platform, a foundation to build upon and achieve any of these at such a young age.
So there are a lot of fathers and mothers who are in that very same position, and maybe not, they're not aspiring, or they're not offered that sort of level of job in terms of, publicity and all of that. But I remember a few years ago, I think it was 2011, I was gone 75 nights. And I said to myself, this is nuts. I can't do this anymore. At that point, I had 2 kids. And I just said, I can't do this anymore. And so there are a lot of professionals who are in that position where they feel like, well, if I don't do that, if I don't take that trip, or if I don't, work those longer hours, then I'm not going to be successful. What is your response to that?
Yeah, big time. My response to that is you can strive to attain success only so long as it doesn't cost you success in the home. Because if you attain monetary success, you alluded to the businessman that needs to travel, and it costs you your familial relationships, I'm sorry, dude, but that's not success. It's just not success. So you can attain success only as long as you maintain an excellent family life. And here's what I've seen time and time again, because this has caused me to become a mentor and an executive coach. And so I'm getting all these anecdotes. I'm a data guy, so maybe I should start gathering some data on this. It is so interesting to me, because those that decide to not go overseas and leave their family for years on end, those that decide to not, take that once in a lifetime offer, those are the guys that end up becoming successful, both monetarily and in the home. And it is ironic to me, because the guys that sacrifice their family often get neither. They often have a terrible family life, and in the long haul, over all relevant time frames, they actually do not fare off financially successful either.
That's interesting. So I assume that you still have this amazing bond with your father, and you are off doing your own things. You've got your own business ventures. Do you and your dad work together? Does he have his own separate ventures?
Yeah, great question. So I mentioned he has a vocal academy, and if any of your audience is a singer, if you've YouTubed anything, relating on how to sing, you've probably come across my dad. He's like rocker, like awesome, long hair. He's like killing it, and he's in his mid-50s. To answer your question, I do help him out. So I do some data analytics, and I do online marketing for him. He doesn't need it because he's just a fantastic singer, and that's just honestly how he gets his clients. But to answer your question, yeah, I mean, I help him out with his business here and there.
So what is your recommendation to fathers? Because I think what is great about that is you are working with your father, and you don't just have a relationship with him, and then you graduate or you leave the home, and then, you have that, but you're actually working together. And so what are different ways that fathers can, bring their kids into their workplace, into their profession? Because I've tried to do that with my kids as well. And you have this different level of connection. For example, when I made a movie this fall, and we had to go to San Francisco. And so I took one of my sons, and he was able to be there and see what was going on and meet the people. And you just have that sort of different connection. So what are some other ways that fathers can relate, can get their sons sort of into the mix?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So one of the principles that my dad lived by, and it's actually a quote from him that I would offer as advice to all those fathers out there, is even if it's ping pong. And what that means is fathers should do their best to understand their sons and want to come alongside and support them and act as like a jetpack to their son's life, even if it's ping pong. I remember I was a really avid soccer guy, and my dad would always tell me, whatever it is true, whether even if it's ping pong, there's the quote, it would be, let's get the best paddles, the best balls, the best tables, let's, do a one coach. And if you're a ping pong guy, like, that's great. That was supposed to be like, even if it's something that's silly, I want to come behind you, and I want to like help you go as far in life as possible. So it's so good that you brought your son into your projects, because he gets to experience like what you do on a day-to-day basis. And I'll just rattle off a statistic really quick, is that 70% of estate transition plans fail. And very few of that 70% happens at a professional level, that they did their job poorly, whichever firm you're leaning on. It's mostly because the parents haven't instilled their values into their children. That's the primary culprit of this. And that they're, planning their estate in secret with attorneys, and then voila, handing it off, when they pass, and that's their first time that the heirs are seeing this. But it's so important that along the way, you're instilling those values. So to your recommendation, which I would totally agree with, bring them in, because children are going to learn so much more based on what they see than what they hear. The quote is, so much more is caught than is taught. And so if you're bringing your son or your daughter into your workplace, they're going to get to see those values that you should be instilling into them, from their youth. That's going to be most effectively transferred into them the more that you're bringing them in to your work setting, because they're going to catch the values that you are living out on a day-to-day basis, which is kind of scary if you think about it, if you're doing this the wrong way, but it also can be a very good thing.
Yeah, I think kids definitely learn more from what they witness their parents doing in their day-to-day lives than they do what their parents are telling them they ought to do in life. And as we know, fatherless households have become a growing epidemic in the United States. In the Black community, I think 3 out of 4 Black kids are growing up without fathers, and it is deeply, deeply detrimental to the rest of their lives. And one of my favorite talk radio hosts, Larry Elder, loves to talk about that. And so it's very, very important to have fathers in the life. So True, thank you so much for joining us. He is True Tamplin. He is an entrepreneur and #1 bestseller of the book Raising an Executive. So everybody check it out on Amazon. True, thanks so much. Yep, there it is. So True, Merry Christmas to you and your wife and your family. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Amanda and Kyle, for having me. God bless you guys.
Thank you.
You too.